Welcome to ABC Behavior Training, where we're disseminating the science of ABA to everyday behavior analysts through resources, education, and supervision. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at abcbehaviortx.com.
All right, well, thank you guys all for being here with me today. This is going to be the first CEU on our intensive competency workshop, the BCBA Career Intensive, and I'm going to go over what that means and looks like here in just a few minutes for those of you that are not really sure what you signed up for today. But just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. My name is Melissa Dreskis. I have a background as a speech language pathology assistant with my bachelor's in speech language pathology and audiology. I have my master's in applied cognition and neuroscience, and I completed the graduate certification program in ABA from Florida Institute of Technology. I have over 10 years of clinical experience. I've worked as a BCBA mentor and consultant. I've done graduate level teaching experience, and I'm the owner of ABC Behavior Training, which is what I do full-time now, just providing trainings and resources for other BCBAs. So if you're not familiar with ABC Behavior Training, definitely go to my website and check it out. Our goal is disseminating the science of ABA to everyday behavior analysts. We do this through resources. So I have lots of digital and physical resources available, like experience hour trackers, competency assessments, evaluations, graphing templates, and then I have a supervision curriculum, BCBA planners, and more. So there's a lot of stuff on there that is just really helpful that I made because I needed them as a BCBA. So now I share them with others. And then through education, which is something that you're in right now, one of our education pieces. We do this through CEUs, masterclass workshops. I don't have it listed because our intensive competency workshops are pretty new, but those as well, those are just much more in-depth workshops that have a competency mentorship part to it as well. And then I also do one-to-one consultation, supervision, mentorship, and then provide education through my podcast, The Behavior Crew. And then finally, through supervision, which is really one of my biggest passions and one of the things that just got me started with my own company. I provide supervision to students earning their fieldwork hours. I use a structured curriculum, which allows for a lot of opportunities for unrestricted hours. They get to learn from a varied team of experienced BCBAs, and then they also have opportunities for group supervision with other supervisees. So those are all the things and just kind of like the threefold way that we are trying to expand and disseminate ABA with ABC Behavior Training. So, of course, as we have those resources, sorry, I'm trying to click the button. There we go. As I have those resources, this is just a disclosure. Some materials that I might discuss at some point during this 6-month workshop could be sold by profit by me. There's no obligation to purchase any of these tools. The presentation is not for the purpose of selling any of these resources mentioned. I don't think I'm talking about any of them today, but just as we go through things, when we're talking about supervision, when we're talking about assessment and report writing, I've made tools for these things, again, because I need them. So as we go through things, if there's anything that I've made that we're talking about, I'm also going to show you how you can make and utilize those things yourself, or you can get the ones I've already made. So that's just disclosure, but there's no reason to have to purchase any of the things that I've made if you want to create them yourself. So I want to do a little bit of a who's here because this is right now, if you're watching me live, of course, this is our live CEU, but I have a few different types of people that are in this. So I kind of want to go over who might be in attendance and where you're going to get your CEU for this event today. So the BCBA Career Intensive is a 6-month intensive workshop with a CEU every 2 weeks, and then on the alternating weeks is a Q&A. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that is, what we're going to cover, whether you're here as a trial just checking out this first one, or whether you've actually signed up for the 6-month mentorship. But I just want to kind of go over that. So if you are here live and you're here as a trial, so that means you are not signed up for the BCBA Career Intensive, but you're watching this right now, right here with me, you're going to get your CEU survey sent to you within 48 hours. You're going to get that emailed to you to the email address that you used to register on Zoom to attend this event today. That CEU, you need to complete that. Make sure that you put in your correct email address, and then your certification is going to be sent to you automatically once you do that. Now, you also might be a actual member, somebody who has signed up for the BCBA Career Intensive, and you're watching this live. You're going to get access to that CEU survey, the recording, and the slides, and all of that's going to be in today's module within 48 hours. The module, you will have gotten the instructions of how to log in and access that, and everything's going to be in there for this very first CEU. And then for ongoing ones, you're always going to see the recording, slides, and any other relevant material updated in there within 48 hours. Now, you may also be watching this as a recorded trial. So I'm going to be posting this on YouTube for anybody to watch. So that means you're not signed up for this workshop, but you're just checking this out as the trial. There's going to be a link in the details below of how to get your CEU survey. And then you may also be watching this as a member and watching it recorded. Then again, same thing. You're going to see the slides and CEU survey link and everything like that in the module below the video. And if you are watching this recorded, then of course you're already going to see that because that's how you got to this recorded video. So I just want to go over that because some of the things that we're talking about when I'm talking about upcoming topics and things like that, or the slides to the video or whatever that is, those are going to be things that if you're a member, if you've signed up for this 6-month workshop, of course, you're going to get access to. And if not, if you're just doing this as a trial, you can totally sign up if you'd like, or you can just do this as a one-off, just to get some extra CEUs. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of this. So what is this workshop for? Why have I put this together? So I love our field. I love the field of ABA, but I'm on social media like pretty much all of you are. And ABA can definitely have a bad reputation sometimes. There's people with autism that are recalling traumatic ABA experiences, which are completely relevant. I mean, hearing some of the things that they've gone through are not things that should be happening in ABA. You have parents that are not included in treatment planning, and then it leads to incorrect assumptions about our treatment and what we are doing and what ABA is doing. Collaboration with allied health can be one-sided. As BCBAs, we can sometimes be dismissive of others' views if it doesn't align with ABA, or maybe it just doesn't occur at all because we're not really confident in how we should be collaborating with other professionals. And all of these things together can kind of lead towards a negative view of ABA from some of these professionals that we need to collaborate with. And then we also have companies that can be encouraging unethical behavior, leading to overworked BCBAs, untrained staff, and ultimately ineffective therapy and unhappy families and clients. So as a fresh new BCBA many years ago, I heard of these things and did not think it was an actual problem. I thought it was just a result of misconceptions about ABA. Maybe people were just thinking about like old school ABA, like Ivar Lovaas, which of course we don't use that in the way he used it currently. I thought maybe there was just a few people out there doing bad ABA, or it was just a small problem occurring only in isolated incidents. But this is a big problem that is widespread throughout our field. And if we don't fix the issues that are causing this, then it can just become a much bigger problem for our field as a whole. So first we need to look at what is the path to becoming a BCBA to identify where there might be any issues. So first you get a master's degree or complete your coursework hours. Then you do your supervised field work hours, which of course can overlap with your coursework. Then you're going to pass the BCBA exam and then enter the field. So there can be some issues at the level of education. So maybe you're in a program. I've seen some programs that really just focus on autism and treatment of kids with autism instead of as behaviorism as a science. So I went to Florida Institute of Technology. They absolutely treat it as a science. It's a very in-depth program. But then there are some programs that maybe you're getting like a degree in education and then they just like add on an ABA certification to it. And it's again, just really focused on kids with autism or special education. And then you can also have a lack of sufficient preparation for the exam, which is going to hold you up in that process of, completing your hours and coursework and entering the field. And that can honestly just leave you really stressed out. And having that difficulty and lack of confidence when you're entering the field if you've had to go through the exam several times. And then there can be issues at the level of supervision. This is one of the reasons why one of my main goals for my company is providing effective, ethical supervision for anybody that's going through that process. That's why I've created my curriculum. But if you didn't have that experience, a lot of us have not had that really great supervision experience in your fieldwork hours. Maybe you had limited training beyond the RBT position, limited hands-on application of BCBA skills, limited checks of conceptual knowledge. Maybe your supervisor just assumed that the school was teaching it all and there's some gaps in your knowledge. So these issues can lead to problems when we have BCBAs entering the field. And it's not really the fault of the BCBAs. It's like the whole system that led to it. There's such a great need for BCBAs and ABA services that sometimes it almost feels like we just kind of get pushed in there to cover these services without making sure that the clinician is confident and competent in really everything they need to do. So as you're a new BCBA, like I said, you could potentially just kind of be thrown in to cover the massive need of ABA services. Maybe you're entering the field without having completed BCBA related tasks, like you haven't actually done those things hands-on, and now you're in a job as a BCBA being asked to do those things. That can lead to lack of confidence and competence in BCBA skills. You might not have a good mentor or support system in place. And all of these things can really lead towards us becoming technologists, where we're really just implementing set programs and procedures instead of scientists, where we're actually analyzing the environment and making individualized adjustments and thinking outside the box to make sure we're making progress for our clients. But with all that said, it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom. Many BCBAs have quality supervision and educational experiences. If you're here and you're like, some of these things you've experienced, you probably have just experienced some of these. You probably didn't experience these issues in all the different areas that I've listed. And even still, there are many high quality BCBAs in our field that are moving us in the right direction. So we still have really good role models, making sure that things are going correctly and providing the supports out there that many people need. But with all that said, that kind of ties us back into the purpose of this workshop. So this workshop is meant to give you the general knowledge in a wide range of areas to cover these gaps and ensure that you have the knowledge and support system needed to be a confident and competent BCBA. So I have masterclass courses as well, which are like deep dives into specific topics, but this 6-month workshop, it is going to be more general to cover a wide range of areas to make sure you are good to go going out into the field. So for new BCBAs, this is going to help you increase your confidence and your skills. Maybe you are here as a seasoned BCBA. You've done this for years and years and years. Well, this can still be helpful to you because it can refresh and expand your foundational knowledge. And then if you're here even as a clinical director or a BCBA leader, This can give you ideas and knowledge for supporting and training your team and taking this information and implementing it in what you're doing to make sure that your BCBAs that are coming in, whether they're new or experienced, also have this foundational knowledge. And you can kind of use this as a guide to make sure that everybody has this information and that they are confident and competent moving forward. So let's take a look at our 6-month content. So the numbers are for the months. So we're in month 1. This month we are talking about the BCBA career. Today we're looking at just what is a career as a BCBA, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to go over today a little bit more in depth. Our next CEU this month is going to be company ethics. Next month in February, we're going to focus on work-life balance. So we'll have a CEU going over time management and supervising RBTs. And then in March, we're going to talk about soft skills and supervision, where we will look at supervision of BCBA students and soft skills. And then in April, we're going to look at assessments and reports. So of course, those CEUs are going to be assessments and report writing. And then for May, we will look at programming and parents. So goals and programming, how do we select goals, write goals, what should we select for programming for our clients? And then we will also take a look at parent training. And then for our final month, we will look at ethics and beyond. So we'll address some common ethical issues. And then we'll take a look at beyond pediatric autism work. What are other things that we can do as a BCBA? So within this, you are going to be getting some ethics CEUs. You will also be getting some supervision CEUs, and you will get those, of course, throughout the month as we go through everything. Now, the dates for the lives meetings are listed here, and then we also have the dates for the Q&As. So the CEUs, of course, today is January 9th, so that's our first one. And then those are going to happen on Tuesday, and then the Q&As are going to happen on the alternating Saturdays. There is going to be a break in here. So between April 16th, there's going to be a break after that for that Q&A, a break for the CEU, and then we're going to resume on May 11th because I'm taking my kids to Disney World and they don't know. It's a surprise. So we're going to be out for like a week and a half for that. So that should be super fun. But it's not going to affect your work at all. We're still going to have the same number of courses as we originally would, but it's just going to give you a little break there in between. So for the CEUs, today is one of the CEU events, of course, and these are going to happen every other Tuesday. They'll happen at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're going to get between 2 to 3 CEUs per month. I'm giving that roughly, and I'm also not telling you exactly how many CEUs you're getting for this whole thing because I'm recording them live, and while I can somewhat estimate how long it's going to be, there can be some variation in there. So you can assume that, each meeting is going to be probably about 50 minutes to maybe an hour and a half, just really depending on what we're talking about. Today we're covering a lot of just kind of basic stuff. So today will probably be a little bit shorter. When we start talking about assessments and parent training and stuff like that, I definitely imagine those going to be a little bit longer meetings. So it just depends on what it is that we're going over. Slides and recordings are going to be available within 48 hours where the modules are. So basically like where you got this link. And then CEU certifications are going to be issued monthly for both CEUs together. So it's going to be combined, and that's going to be helpful because each month we have a specific topic that we're going over. It's going to let us combine those two CEUs, and then there also may be some supplemental material that will count towards your CEUs, like if I have you read articles or things like that. So that's why we're doing those monthly. However, of course, if you are here as a trial, you will get your CEU for this individual meeting. If you're here as a trial and you decide to sign up for this, then please don't fill out the survey right now. Wait until you just get the survey for the entire month, just to make sure that you don't get a double survey for something. And I do have a question if all of the Q&As are required for CEUs, and they are not. So the Q&As are not required, and you don't get CEUs for the Q&As just because I don't really know what the content is going to be and if it's going to meet the criteria for CEUs. So the only thing that you're getting those CEUs for each month are the actual events. And then also like if I have you do articles or something like that. So let's talk about the Q&As as well. Even though you're not getting CEU credit for this, I think that they're really important, and I definitely encourage you to please come to them. Even if you don't have questions, you can hear other people's questions, you can pitch in, and this is supposed to be collaborative, right? So I'm not going to have all the answers to all your questions, but some of you guys might have answers to some of these questions. So it's good if we can work together as a team to address any issues or questions that people have, because this is not specifically going to be on the content that we covered that week. So these are every other Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. They're going to be between 30 and 60 minutes long. If I hop on and there's like one question, they might be shorter, but again, I do encourage you all to come with your questions or ideas or, even your success stories of what's going great, because this is meant to be a support system. Bring questions about your clients or your caseload. Just be sure to maintain, that confidentiality. Don't give out any names or anything. You can bring your questions about providing supervision, about programming. It can also be about the workshop content that we're going over. It can be about ethics, really anything that you want to talk about. It is meant to be a supportive environment for all of you out there that maybe you don't have that supportive environment, or maybe you do have a support system at work, but maybe you're not comfortable asking your colleagues a question that you feel you should know the answer to. Whatever it may be, like this is your place to do that. And that's why I want to make sure we have a space for that. And again, it would be great if everybody could come to those. So you should join even if you're behind on CEUs. Maybe you're not watching them live and then you are, behind on them, but Q&A is coming up. Still join the Q&A. That's fine. Like you can still watch the CEUs at a different time. You don't have to be right on track to be able to join the Q&A. And then somebody asked, do you have to attend live to get CEUs? And you do not. You can get the recording and get the CEUs from that as well, whichever is fine. And also for the Q&As, there is going to be a recording of the Q&A event as well. So that will be available within 48 hours. So maybe you missed it. You can also, if you're going to miss it, like you can email me your questions and I can still address it on that week's Q&A. And even if you're not there, you can go back and watch the recording and get the answer to your question. So feel free to do that as well if you're not able to be on live. But again, I do encourage everybody to come on live so we can have that support system for everybody that's in our group. And then we have supplementals. So these are other things that you're going to get just throughout this 6 months. So I may have you read journal articles that are related to the topics that we're covering. And if you do, that will be included in your CEUs. I will also be providing you with worksheets or visual aids or digital tools to help you implement the concepts that we're covering for that month. So all of those things you're going to find in the modules as well. So you will get access to that, but each month you can expect to get some other various tools that are going to just help you along the way and help you implement what we're covering just to make things easier. And then we have our competency mentorship. So this is the thing that is completely unique for all of our intensive competency workshops. So I have this one, the BCBA Career Intensive. I have a behavioral feeding workshop, which has already been completed, but you can get access to that through recordings. That also has this mentorship. And then also coming up later this month, I have my supervision entrepreneur ICW as well, which has that mentorship. So all of these intensive competency workshops have a competency mentorship option that you can add to it. And the purpose of this is to make sure that you have that hands-on piece to be competent in whatever it is that we are going over. So we know that competency comes from not just the knowledge, not just attending a workshop or doing a CEU, but also having that hands-on experience. But unfortunately, we don't always have people there that can provide that mentorship for us. So this is a piece that we're adding just to these types of workshops that are more in-depth, going over specific topics, like the ones I mentioned. And for this 6-month workshop, we are going to also have a competency mentorship that's going to extend that support system for you. So this is going to begin after the completion of the workshop. There's going to be 6 additional months of live one-to-one meetings with me. So not in a group setting. We're just going to have one-to-one meetings, can go over, whatever things you need to talk about that month, bounce ideas off, get support on your cases, whatever that is. That can also count towards your supervision mentorship if you need that. If you've been a BCBA for less than 1 year and you're also providing supervision, you need to have that supervision from an experienced BCBA that can count towards that for you as well. There's also going to be monthly mastermind meetings in small groups with colleagues where we can provide support and ideas for one another, unlimited email support, and you also get a free BCBA planner just to help organize your life and your work all in one place. And then you'll get a certification of competency following the completion of the mentorship. So if you are a member, like you've actually signed up for the BCBA Career Intensive, you may have already added this on to the workshop, or you can sign up now, or you can also add it really anytime or following the workshop. But this is something that will begin whenever we're done with the 6 months, and it will come as a piece after just to extend and also go more in depth in the level of support that you're getting. All right, so let's go ahead and get started talking about the actual topic for this week, which is the BCBA career. So for today's focus, we're going to do an overview of the BCBA career. That's going to include the BACB ongoing requirements, and also the scope, caseloads, work setting, and other factors of our jobs that we can encounter. So most of you, probably all of you, are already BCBAs, you're already working in the field, maybe you're new, or maybe you've been doing this for years. But regardless of already being experienced and being in the field, it's vital to make sure that we understand the BACB requirements for our certification. It's also important to understand typical expectations of our job. I know I have been in that place as well, where maybe you've been in a job for years and years and years and years, and what is typical and expected for you is not necessarily what everybody else in our field is experiencing. So I think it's good to just kind of go over those basics and make sure you have that understanding of what is normal for a job of a BCBA, and also what is and what is not expected job tasks of us. Maybe you're doing stuff that just seems like completely not on the list that I'm going to go over of typical job tasks, and you should just have awareness of that. And then we're also going to cover other work settings, again, just for typical BCBA positions of working with kids with autism. And looking at other settings like that, it's going to help you think about if where you're at now, like the setting that you're in now, is the best setting for you. So let's go ahead and jump into the BACB requirements. So for certification maintenance, we have a 2-year recertification cycle, and you can recertify within 45 days of your expiration date. So whenever your certification is about to expire, 45 days before that, you can start that process to recertify. One of the big parts of that is your CEUs. You need to have all of those entered before you can even recertify on the BACB website. So every 2 years, we need a total of 32 CEUs. And one CEU credit is 50 minutes long. We can't ever round up. So if you're on this talk with me today for an hour, you still just get one CEU, but we can do half hours. So like 25 minutes is 0.5. But that's just kind of how that calculation works. And then within that 32 total hours, you need 4 CEUs of ethics and 3 CEUs of supervision if you are providing supervision to either BCBA candidates or to RBTs. So there's 3 types of CEUs that you can utilize. The learning type is the most common type. That is what you are in right now. This is where you're attending CEU events by ACE providers. You can check out who you are, getting your CEUs for in the ACE provider directory, which that's on the BACB website, or you can ask them. Sometimes I get emails for mine because it's not under my company name, ABC Behavior Training. I do all of the CEUs, and if I don't do them, I'm still present for them. So I don't have an organizational one. It's an individual provider. So mine is under my name. So always check for that, or just make sure there's a seal on their website and that the CEUs that you're doing and paying for that are actually going to count for you. And then there's also didactic behavior analytic graduate courses. Those can count towards your CEUs as well. Of course, you already have to be a BCBA though. So maybe you're a BCBA and now you're going and getting your PhD in behavior analysis. So that work can count with a C or higher. So I also have a question here. If you are not currently providing supervision, then you don't need supervision CEUs. That's not correct, because you're probably thinking about if you're not providing supervision to like BCBA students for their supervised fieldwork hours. That's not the only supervision we do. If you have RBTs that work under you, which if you're a BCBA, you most likely do, you still need supervision CEUs for that. Because supervision CEUs, those are not just going to be about supervision to BCBA candidates. As we're talking about supervision of RBTs or anything like that, that also counts towards your supervision CEUs, because we need to be able to have those skills to supervise our techs as well. All right, and then our second type of CEU is the teaching type. So this is for teaching ACE events. So me right now teaching this, I am earning teaching CEUs. I'm not earning the learning type. But unless you are teaching CEUs yourself, or if you are teaching university courses in behavior analysis at accredited degree granting universities, then those things would include for the teaching type. And then finally, we have the scholarship type, which again, probably not as common unless you're doing research, which if you are, that's fantastic. But for this, publishing an article on behavior analysis in a peer-reviewed journal, you would get 8 CEUs for one publication. And then writing a review or decision letter for an article on behavior analysis submitted to a peer-reviewed journal, you would get 1 CEU for 1 review or decision letter for that. And then I have a question here too. Can I go over the amount of CEUs? And I'm just going to go back to that slide. So that amount of CEUs, you need 32 total CEUs every 2 years. 4 of those CEUs need to be ethics. 3 of those CEUs need to be supervision. If you are doing a typical BCBA job where you have RBTs working under you. So yeah, just 32 every 2 years. There's no specification if they need to be live or if they can be recorded ones that you're watching. You do need that information because you're going to have to put all that into the BACB website to get your certification, but there's not necessarily a requirement as far as like how you get them specifically for those learning CEUs. That's where you're going to get most of them from. Probably all of them is from that learning type. All right, and then as I said, the details of each CEU along with your certification that you get, the CEU certification, that must be uploaded to the BACB in your account in order to recertify. I highly recommend that you do this along the way. So you're going to do the CEU with me today. Within 48 hours, you're going to get the survey for it and your certification. Go to your BACB account and put this information in. I am a big procrastinator, so I have been the one that has been, a couple of weeks before my certification expires, and I'm going in there and I'm putting in all my CEUs for the last 2 years, and that's a pain. I'm not going to do that again. So I don't recommend doing that. It's pretty stressful. So just do them along the way, do them as you're getting them, and that'll make it a lot easier. And I'm also going to be providing everybody today a CEU tracker that's going to be sent for this live event. So whether you are a member or you're watching this as a trial, I'm going to send you a CEU tracker, which is just a simple form that you can use to keep track of all your CEUs. So if you don't happen to go in and put all this into the BACB website every time, at least if you use the tracker, that's going to make it a lot easier for you when you need to recertify. All right, and then providing supervision. So we talked about this a little bit. If you are going to be providing supervision, and again, this means to people that are accruing the fieldwork hours, so like BCBA students or supervisees, candidates, whatever you call them, or RBTs. So that's going to pretty much be all of us. You work with RBTs under you, you're supervising them. You need to do the 8-hour supervision training before providing any of this supervision to them because you are their responsible supervisor. And then for ethics and self-reporting, this is a good thing just to go over as well, because unless you regularly read the BACB handbook, you might not know of all the different things that you might need to self-report to the BACB. So changes to personal information, like name changes, anything like that needs to be reported to the BACB. If you have found yourself in non-compliance with supervision requirements, let's say maybe you didn't know that you needed to do that 8-hour supervision training before you provide supervision to RBTs, and you've been doing this now for several months or whatever, well, you will have now found out that that's not okay. You have to have that 8-hour training. So you would have to report non-compliance with supervision requirements. Then, of course, any violation of ethics standards, you would need to report that to the BACB. Any physical or mental health conditions that you found out about that could affect your job, substance use disorders, any sort of investigations on your work or your ethics, and any agreements and actions. And on the BACB handbook, definitely go look at that if you have not. But there's a big list of things that are included in agreements and actions. But just to be general, this is things like legal issues, like civil suits, getting tickets. Right now it says like public safety, public health and safety tickets, things like that are over $750. So speeding ticket probably isn't going to count on that of something that you need to report, but then there could be other tickets that are more severe in nature that you would need to report to the BACB. So go look at this in more detail and just make sure that's another requirement that we need to do to hold our certification, that we do self-report any issues that come up. And it's much better if you self-report it than if somebody reports it on you without you being the one to report it to the BACB. So those are good to check out and be familiar with as well. And then we also want to make sure that you are subscribed to receive emails from the BACB to get their most recent newsletters notifying you of changes. So there is, if you go to like the newsletter section of the BACB, I'm sure somewhere on there, I know I've seen it, there's a thing on there to just make sure that you have that box checked to receive emails from them. And you can also change your email if you need to. When you first sign up for this, you should definitely use your personal email, not a company email that you aren't going to have access to if you change jobs at some point. So be sure to use your personal email, or if you are using a work email, go and change that so you can get these email notifications of when the BACB makes updates. So you are familiar with the most recent changes or adjustments or what's going to be changing in the near future so you can prepare for it. All right, and now we're going to talk about more of our actual job as a BCBA. So who are we responsible to? Like, where do all of our commitments lie for our job? So of course, and primarily we have our clients. So they are the primary person that we're responsible for. But then we also have like parents and caregivers, your collaboration team. So maybe you work with speech therapists, OT, maybe medical professionals. Of course, your direct supervisor is somebody you're responsible to. Your RBTs or direct therapy staff that you're training. Any supervisee students that you have that are trying to become BCBAs. Insurance, of course, we have to connect with them and write effective reports for them to approve. And then also the company that we work for. And we cannot forget the BACB, who we are also responsible to. So that is a lot of different people that we have to take into consideration when we are doing our job. And that's also now going to relate to a lot of tasks that we have as a BCBA. So this like scope of a BCBA of all the tasks that we do, this is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure there are things that I did not think of when adding these. So we need to do skill and behavioral assessments for our clients. That's a given. We're probably all doing those. We're going to take those assessments and then write reports and goals for them. We need to train our staff on goal implementation. Supervise our staff implementing the goals and make sure they're doing that correctly. Providing feedback and reinforcement for our staff as they're doing their implementation of the goals that we've created. Providing direct services with clients. Sometimes, I put sometimes in here because I have been in positions as a BCBA that it's a given you're going to do whatever 10% of the client's hours yourself. And there are some pros to that. I mean, you definitely get a better picture of what the client is doing, how they're doing on their programs. You're going to have better rapport with your clients as well. And sometimes like you're there doing supervision, but you just want to step in sometimes and say, okay, I just need to try this, but don't watch me. I don't want you to do this. This isn't the program yet. And sometimes you just need to get in there and see what's working for that client. Change your prompt levels, change how you're presenting something. So if you are in that position where you do some direct service with your clients, that's definitely a big pro for that. But some cons to that is that it can take away from some of your supervision time. Maybe if that's not adjusted correctly, you can end up with just a lot of extra work because you're doing direct services. But usually companies that require this, hopefully they are making sure that that time is provided adequately so you can balance your supervision and your direct services. And then of course we have reviewing data and updating our goals. We have to train parents, update parents on progress. Parent training and updating parents on progress is not the same thing. We are going to talk more about that as we talk about parent training, but those are two different things that should happen in two different meetings. And then, of course, we have collaborating with the school and allied health professionals. Supervising BCBA candidates, whether you could be doing this on your own as like a side job, or you could be just doing this through your company, that anybody that wants to become a BCBA, that is one of your technicians, then you get to provide their supervision for them. And then of course you're going to have calls with insurance companies to kind of go up against any denials that you're getting, explain your reports and your goals and all of that stuff. And then there's also meetings, and more meetings. If you work for a company, hopefully some of the meetings are important and necessary, but you probably also have meetings that are maybe less so. So this is just an overview of what our job as a BCBA is. Again, you may have more stuff than this on there, but this is a lot of different stuff that we have to keep up with and be aware of and make sure that we're tracking and staying on top of all of these different aspects, because all of these things are going to tie back to those people that we're responsible for. So let's take a look at caseloads. So a full-time caseload is typically 25 to 30 billable hours per week. I have seen more than this. I don't think I've ever seen less than this for a full-time caseload. And I'd say that's pretty consistent whether you work in a clinic or in a home health setting. If you work in a school, then that's going to be different because you're not going to have billable hours if you're not dealing with insurance. So that's pretty typical. And then you also typically get bonuses for meeting these hours and then also for taking on more than this billable caseload. So you want to pick up an extra client, then a lot of times there's monthly or quarterly bonuses attached to that. So how many cases is this? Well, it depends. So there's two different treatment options for our clients: comprehensive and also focused. Comprehensive treatment, that's going to be 30 to 40 hours per week. Typically, you're going to see this with younger clients because research shows us that having an intensive comprehensive treatment for kids that are, newly diagnosed with autism that are younger is going to have the most benefit for them. You're going to use this with clients where multiple domains are affected. Maybe they have deficits in communication, social skills, adaptive skills, cognitive behaviors, and then they also have challenging behaviors present. They don't have to have challenging behaviors to also have this comprehensive treatment, but a lot of times if they do and they have multiple domains affected, this is where you're going to end up on your hours. And then you also have focus treatment. This is 10 to 20 hours per week. This is where you're going to be focused on one or two domains of deficit. The client probably has minimal challenging behaviors. I've done this a lot with older clients. Maybe they've been in ABA in the past, and now we just need to work on a few extra things as they're getting older. Or, they're high functioning and only have a couple of areas that we need to work on. And this is where that focus treatment can benefit. I do want to stress that this is not something that is just picked from by parents. So if you have somebody that's new to the idea of ABA and you're like, here, we need to do 40 hours of treatment, and they're like, no, we're going to do 10 hours of treatment, that's not going to get you the progress that you need. If you have a client that still has multiple domains affected and they have challenging behavior, that's just going to be doing like 25% of the work that's needed. And you're probably going to find yourself trying to cram a comprehensive treatment plan into 10 hours per week, which is not going to work. So when we're talking about these different treatment plans, this is something that you as the clinician would decide, and then of course communicate and talk about with parents and caregivers or whoever else is involved, but it should be based off of how your client is affected, the severity of their deficits, and also the presence or absence of challenging behavior. So with that, that's going to lead to some variation as far as like how many clients you have. And that's also why our caseloads are typically determined by our billable hours of work and not by how many clients that you have. So billable work, that's going to include your supervision of the case and also the direct therapy if you do that piece as well. Any parent training that you do and your assessment. Once upon a time, long, long ago, indirect hours used to count as billable work. That doesn't happen anymore anywhere that I've seen. And I'm in Texas, but I've collaborated with and done remote work for people in other states, and I haven't seen any indirect being counted. So it's just the direct stuff where you're face-to-face with the client, or in the case of the assessment, of course, there's indirect stuff as you're writing the report. But for your supervision hours, most often I have seen personally 10% of the client's total hours for supervision, but I've also seen it go up to 20%. So a 40-hour case If they're getting 10% supervision, that's going to be 4 hours of supervision per week. If you're going up to 20% supervision, then that's 8 hours of supervision per week. So again, that's going to be another way that's going to vary along with that treatment intensity. And then parent training, I have seen anywhere from 1 time a month to 1 time a week. Sometimes this can depend on the company that you work for, but also the insurance that your client has. Some insurance companies require once a week for parent training. And like I said, parent training should include progress review and also hands-on training. But like I said, we will definitely go more in depth on what that should look like when we get to our parent training CEU. And then for your assessment, again, at least in Texas, usually you're allowed 8 hours per authorization period, which is going to be 6 months for your assessment. And that is regardless of how long it actually takes you to do the assessment. So we'll go over assessments, of course, as well, but that's where planning ahead of time, checking stuff off of whatever assessment you've used throughout that 6-month period as things are mastered, that can help you with that as well. And if you're new, I know when I was a new BCBA, it took me a long time to do the complete assessment, write the report and all of that. But of course, as you get more experienced, it's going to take you less time. So if you're struggling with the time management part of that right now, it will get better. So with all of that, your caseload could really vary. So let's say that you have 7 comprehensive clients at like 40 hours a week at 10% supervision. That's going to probably be a full caseload for you, versus you might have 4 comprehensive clients at 20% supervision. That would be a full caseload for you. So what your caseload looks like is really going to depend on the treatment intensity and your supervision percentage, and really what your individual company does. But again, these are just common numbers that you're going to see throughout our field as well. So it just kind of gives you a reference point. If you're doing something that's way off of this, then maybe you want to ask more people in your area that deal with your insurances, if that's normal for the location that you're working in. But this is, these numbers here are pretty average across the board. All right, and then it's important, I think, for us to talk about pay too. So pay varies wildly, of course, from setting to setting and different locations. But again, we're looking at averages. I am of the mind that like pay should just be out there, and it should be something that everybody knows about. So you don't have people coming on that are just started at crazy low numbers, or they're started really low because maybe they came from an RBT and the company understands the difference between those 2 pay brackets. But this will just kind of give you an average idea, especially if you're new to the field. Starting BCBAs typically get $75,000 a year plus bonuses for hitting or exceeding desired metrics. These bonuses can be financial. I've worked at a company that gave out like week-long vacations that were completely paid for. I've worked at a company that gave me a company car to use for as long as I worked there. So when we're talking about bonuses, it's not always just like a financial bonus. So it can look like many different things. Now, these metrics that you're likely going to get bonuses on, some of them can be under your control, but sometimes you may not have much control over the metrics, like RBTs completing all of their hours. If you're in a home health setting, there is really only so much you can do to get your RBTs to go to work when you didn't hire them and don't really have any control over, their job, aside from providing them with supervision. So again, some things you might not have control over. So it's really good to understand what those metrics are and how they're being assessed. And then if you are doing work as like an independent contractor, most often hourly pay for that is $60 to $75 an hour. And then of course you don't get benefits or taxes taken out. And this is an average. This is based on like job board research that I've done, and also my own experience, which again has been in Texas. And then just looking at kind of averages across the US, South and Southeast often come up lower on pay. So Florida, West Virginia, Arkansas, and also that can tie into if cost of living is lower, then you get lower pay. And then North and Northeast often come up higher on pay. So New Jersey, Wisconsin, and also Alaska, probably because there's not so many BCBAs in Alaska. So, and again, that's just a range. So, and that's for like starting BCBAs, of course, if you have more experience and move into leadership and clinical director positions, then you get more money. Now I want to touch also on our typical work settings for the last portion of today's CEU. So typical population that we work with is going to be children with autism. And I say children, but really it's anyone 18 and under. And this is due to, of course, the great need for services for this population, but also insurance reimbursement. As you know, like ABA can be effective for so many people, even typical adults to kids with ADHD, Down syndrome. It's not specific to autism, but that is what insurance pays for. So that is the population that we see, because there's not going to be a lot of parents that are just going to be private paying 40 hours of ABA therapy. So that's why this is our typical population that we work with. We are going to also talk about other areas that BCBAs can work on at the end of this workshop. It's going to be my very last CEU that we talk about. So we'll definitely look at the expansion of that. If you're interested in that talk like right now, if you go to my podcast, The Behavior Crew, I do have some talks about that of kind of outside the box work that we can do as BCBAs. But these typical positions, they're often going to be in clinics, in home, school, and then I'm also going to touch on telehealth, just so everyone here knows as far as like as we're going through this. I have a lot of experience in clinics and most of my experience in in-home services. And then I have no experience in schools except for providing supervision to BCBA candidates. And I don't think I would ever want to work in a school. So that's not my area of passion. But if that is yours, that will be great, because as we do Q&As, if anybody has school questions, that's, again, not going to be my area of expertise. The podcast is The Behavior Crew. That is correct. And that is on, you can go to my website, abcbehaviortx.com, which I'll type in the box here, and you can go to podcasts, but it's also on Spotify and Apple Podcast or Apple Music, Google, Amazon, all of the normal ones. But you can also get to it through my website there. And then I'm also going to touch on telehealth, which of course has become really big since COVID, and since that was really something we had to do. And it's stuck around in some regards. A lot of insurance companies have kind of walked back on that, where we don't do as much telehealth, but some positions could be completely done through telehealth, and I have a lot of experience there as well. So let's look at these different work settings. So first one is a clinic. So ABA clinics, they're going to be those dedicated facilities where behavior analysts provide comprehensive services, or I guess it could be focused services as well. And then they're also going to offer a controlled and structured environment for assessments, intervention, and skill development. So some things you're going to get from a clinic setting is you're going to have that structured setting. So this is going to be designed to create a controlled and structured environment conducive to behavior analysis. So it's going to be set up for everything that we need. You're going to have the toys, you're going to have the trampoline, an outside play place. There's a lot of things that you can utilize, and you can also have that more controlled environment of, who's coming in and who's going, and you probably have, more quiet or controlled places you can take your client to if you need to. You also have a multidisciplinary collaboration. So that's going to be with other professionals that can create a holistic approach to client care. So when I worked in clinics, we'd have an OT, speech, physical therapist, maybe a counselor, and all of us together as a team could do these collaboration meetings with the parents or without the parents if we're doing a reassessment. And having that collaboration is really a special thing in an ABA setting if you have those other professionals there, because then you can also, outside of these meetings, bounce ideas off of them or ask them for help if you're working on, an AAC device and you have a speech therapist that's kind of leading that portion of the treatment. So having all of those professionals under one roof is really helpful. And then you also have specialized resources. So like I said, you're going to have all of the things that you need for your intervention. You're going to have your picture cards and, probably your VB map, like assessment box with all the materials in there and really everything that you need, because they may have like 50 clients and everybody's going to one place. So they don't need to like buy something for every single BCBA or every single client if you are working in an in-home setting. And then you also have that team collaboration. So like I said, you have that multidisciplinary approach, and then you can utilize the fact that all these professionals are right there to make sure you have that collaborative environment. And then training facilities. So this is something that's good if your clinic is set up for it. So this is really good for conducting parent and caregiver training sessions if the clinic is set up to allow parent participations outside of conference rooms. Of course, it's great that you have a conference room that everybody can meet in, but we also have to do hands-on parent training sessions. That's something I've actually seen as a challenge in ABA clinics, because oftentimes they're not going to let parents in behind that conference room or where any other clients are, oftentimes citing like HIPAA concerns, but I mean, parents can sign off on HIPAA documents so that it's okay. So just a lot of times they unfortunately don't let parents to come in and have that hands-on participation. But hopefully, if you're in a clinic that does allow for that and has it set up that way, that's something that can be very useful, because you can use two-way mirrors, you can use cameras, you can do modeling. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. And then some challenges is that you're going to have limited exposure to naturalistic settings compared to in-home, because you are in a contrived environment. You are not in their home or in the community. Now in home, this is going to involve delivering behavior analysis interventions within the client's home. So you're going to have that natural setting. It allows for a behavior analyst to observe and intervene in the client's natural environment, which that's where the behaviors are occurring. So that's really the best place to work on it. You can have family involvement. So you're going to have a lot more collaboration and involvement, not just with the client's parents, but also with siblings, grandparents, babysitters, whoever else is there. You can really get everybody involved in, carrying over these services for when you're not there. Generalization, you can really promote generalization of skills to real life. We can make sure that they're not just happening in a clinic setting, but also are they happening at home, in different rooms with different people? Is it translating to the community as well? And then you can really individualize your program and tailor them based to the specific needs and challenges of the individual in that environment, because you are going to see the whole picture. You're going to be right there where all of this is occurring in their home. So that's going to allow for a lot more generalization, a lot more individualization of programs than if you're in a contrived and structured clinic setting. And then you can also have community integration. So you have that ability to target community related goals and also social interactions by going out into the community. Some challenges is that you're going to have limited control over environmental factors compared to clinic settings. Now you also may have a setting where you do in-home and clinic, and I think that is fantastic because you get the benefits of both, and you can also eliminate some of the challenges that come with just doing 100% of one of these settings. And then you have the school setting. So this is when we work in schools to enhance academic and behavioral outcomes for students. The students may or may not have an autism diagnosis, or maybe that's something they're trying to get. So it just might change your population a little bit. Now you can have collaboration with educators. You can work closely with teachers and school staff to make sure that the implementation of the behavior plan in the education setting is happening. You can provide IEP support. You can help develop and implement the individualized education programs for your student. You can have classroom observations to really identify and address the behavioral challenges that are happening in that environment. So it's kind of like when you're doing in-home, you're looking at where the behaviors are actually occurring. And this is where you get to address that in the classroom because they're happening at school. You can be there and address that at school. And then you also have that ability to develop social skills within the school environment because you have tons of peers around. So you can pull in typically developing peers to create a peer buddy. You can use peers that are in their classroom to develop those skills. So it really gives you a great way that you can work on social skills. And then you can also assist with transition planning. So where you're going to develop a transition plan for students moving between grades levels or even to different schools. Now, some challenges is that you're also going to have limited control over environmental factors and really just school red tape and administration. And it also can be difficult getting teacher buy-in, especially because the teacher has a whole classroom of students that they're trying to work with. So when we're coming in, asking them to do something specific for one student, that can be not just, conceptually difficult, but like actually almost impossible sometimes for them to implement. And that's why it's really important if you are in a school setting or you're interested in working in a school setting that we make things like group contingencies and we utilize other methods to make it easy for the teacher to implement that specific behavior plan while they also have a classroom full of students. And now telehealth. So telehealth supervision, of course, this has emerged through COVID. Of course, we had it before, but it just became really big during COVID. And it's a dynamic work setting for behavior analysts where we can leverage technology to provide supervision and guidance remotely. So we have virtual collaboration. We can conduct our supervision sessions through video conferencing and have a virtual but still highly interactive collaboration if you have the right technology and it's working. It offers flexible scheduling. You can have back-to-back sessions, regardless of if it's a clinic or in home, and have a lot of flexibility with that because you're just hopping on a video call. So you can accommodate diverse and often demanding schedules of your supervisees, of your clients, and still really get all of that done. And then real-time observation, you can utilize the technology for the real-time observation of the session and make sure that you're ensuring accurate and timely feedback. So maybe there's something going on, a technician calls or texts you, you could hop on a call right then and there to see what's going on. If you're not in another supervision session, you don't have to worry about driving there or changing your schedule. It allows you to have a lot more of that flexibility. So there's some advantages and challenges for telehealth, of course. Accessibility is a big advantage. It allows access to expert guidance regardless of the geographical constraints, opening up opportunities for supervision from seasoned professionals, regardless of where clients are. So this is especially important in rural settings where there's not BCBAs available, or it's really hard to get maybe somebody that's experienced in a specific thing. Maybe you have a client that has feeding issues and there's nobody nearby that does that. Well, you could utilize telehealth to really just get anybody that has that experience to provide that supervision regardless of where they live. And then cost efficiency, of course, reducing travel costs and time. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to be anywhere but your house or wherever you're doing your remote supervision from. So that's very convenient. But some challenges is technology limitations. So there's going to be issues related to internet connectivity or platform compatibility, ensuring confidentiality. I've done a lot of telehealth, and my favorite one is, sorry, the iPad is dead. But you knew I was doing supervision today. Why is the iPad dead? So those all fall under technology limitations, and that can be a big challenge if it's something that's constantly occurring and if it's preventing you from providing your supervision. And then interpersonal dynamics. So really like building that strong relationship with your technician, with the parents, with the client, that can be pretty difficult when you are providing remote supervision. You really need to go the extra mile and work harder and be more intentional about what you're doing to build that relationship while you're not there in person. So telehealth supervision, this could be on its own. You strictly do telehealth, but I will say that there's less and less jobs out there that is just telehealth, as insurances are kind of moving back to going back to in-person. Or you could have a combination where maybe it's a client that you do see in person, but you're allowed to do a certain percentage of telehealth. So if that's the setup, then that can also eliminate some of those challenges, because you do go in person, you can help set up the technology, you do build that relationship in person, and then you can also have some of that convenience of doing telehealth. So our next CEU that we're going to have on January 23rd is going to be on company ethics. So I'm really excited about this one because we have all seen it on social media. People are asking, you know, my company is making me do this thing, which might be unethical, or my new job wants me to sign a strict non-compete contract, or I want supervision for free from my company, but they'll make me pay back thousands of dollars if I leave. So we're going to talk about these and other company related issues under the lens of our ethics code when we meet for our next CEU. And then in between that, we are going to have our Q&A. So be sure to come back and join us for that. And if you are here live and you're just joining us as a trial, or maybe you're watching recorded as a trial, definitely go to abcbehaviortx.com. Under CEUs, under our products, you can find this, the ICW BCBA Career Intensive. And if you go on there, of course, I've talked a lot about it here, but you can just read some more details about it. Look a little bit more into the program if you're interested in it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me through my website. So again, thank you all so much for being here with me today. And I look forward to seeing you at our Q&A and at the next CEU.